Lieutenant Emma Rodriguez had been monitoring deep space frequencies for 18 months without hearing anything more exciting than solar wind patterns. That changed at 0347 hours on a Tuesday, when her coffee mug shattered on the floor. The transmission wasn't just alien, it was dying. Please, anyone out there. Our children are dying. The universal translator struggled with the alien syntax, but the raw desperation needed no interpretation. Emma's hands froze over her keyboard as the voice continued, crackling through. 43 light-years of empty space. Plague spreads faster than we can contain it. We are the Corythians of the Outer Rim. We have hours, maybe days before extinction. Emma had trained for first contact protocols. She'd memorized diplomatic procedures and cultural sensitivity guidelines. Nothing had prepared her for this civilization's death rattle transmitted across the galaxy like a cosmic SOS. Any species capable of interstellar travel, we beg you. The alien voice broke, replaced by what sounded like sobbing, then silence. Then the message began repeating, for 3 days straight. Emma's supervisor, Commander Lisa Park, found her at 0600 hours. Still glued to her station? Rodriguez, you haven't slept. When did you last eat something that wasn't from a vending machine? Commander, listen to this. Emma replayed the transmission, watching Park's face drain of color. It's been broadcasting nonstop, the signals. Getting weaker? 'Cause they're dying? Park whispered. The Corythians weren't just sending one desperate message. They were broadcasting on 17 different frequencies. In multiple languages, some of which human computers couldn't even begin to translate. Emma had spent 72 hours documenting every variation, every plea, every heartbreaking detail. They mentioned children specifically in 43% of the transmissions, Emma reported, her voice cracking. They described symptoms that sound like hemorrhagic fever combined with respiratory collapse. Commander, entire cities are going dark between broadcasts. Park stared at the data scrolling across Emma's screens. Population estimates, medical terminology, geographic coordinates of the hardest-hit areas. This wasn't just a distress signal, it was a comprehensive briefing for anyone willing to help. Anyone willing to help? ... double quotes Park repeated slowly. Has anyone responded to them? Emma's laugh held no humor. The Centauri Coalition received it first. It calculated the risk-to-benefit ratio and determined intervention would be economically unfeasible. The Altarians intercepted it next. Their response was to increase border security in case it's some kind of biological weapon that might spread. What about the others? The others? Emma's voice rose with anger. The Vegan Empire classified it as not their jurisdiction. The Sirius Federation sent their thoughts and prayers. Literally, just thoughts and prayers transmitted back to a dying world. Park felt sick, so nobody's helping them. Nobody except Emma hesitated, then pulled up another screen. I forwarded the signal to Admiral Harrison 6 minutes ago. The comm system exploded to life before Park could respond. Admiral James? Harrison's voice cut through the static like a blade. Rodriguez, prep the fleet. We launch in 6 hours. Emma's heart hammered against her ribs. Sir, Command hasn't even approved. Command can court-martial me later. People are dying, Lieutenant. That's all I need to know. Park grabbed Emma's shoulder. Admiral, with respect, we don't know these beings. We don't understand their biology, their politics, their technology. This could be a trap. Harrison's response came back immediately, and Emma could practically hear him gritting his teeth. Commander Park, let me ask you something. If you heard a child screaming for help in a burning building, would you check their credit score first? The question hung in the air like a challenge. At the distance alone, 43 light-years? I know. The Terran rescue fleet can. Make it in 14 hours with our new quantum drives. We'll be there by tomorrow afternoon, their time. Emma stared at her screens in disbelief. While other species had been calculating cost-benefit ratios, the humans were calculating travel time. Admiral Park tried again. What if we can't cure their plague? What if we just end up contaminating our own ships, and we'll die trying? Commander? Because that's what humans do. Harrison's voice softened slightly. Emma, I want you on the lead medical frigate. You know more about their situation than anyone. Ah! Emma's throat tightened. She'd been listening to an entire civilization die for 3 days straight. The haunting voices of Coriolan parents begging the universe to save their children. The increasingly desperate pleas from their medical teams. The final transmissions from cities that had gone completely silent. Sir, what if we're too late? Then we'll make sure it never happens again, Harrison replied grimly. Rodriguez, how long since their last transmission? Emma checked her chronometer. 14 minutes, sir. That's the longest gap yet. The silence that followed felt like a physical weight. Somewhere across 43 light-years of space, the last free Carathians might already be taking their final breaths. Harrison's voice returned, harder than steel. All ships, immediate departure. Maximum burn to Corathian space. We have people to save. As Emma watched the massive Terran rescue fleet power up their FTL drives, she realized something that would have terrified every other species in the galaxy. Humans didn't just respond. 2 calls for help? They responded with overwhelming force. The question wasn't whether they'd save the Corathians. The question was what they'd do to whoever had caused this plague in the first place. The quantum drive shut down with a thunderous hum that Captain Noah Mitchell felt in his bones. 14 hours of faster-than-light travel had brought the Terran rescue fleet to the edge of Corathian space. But nothing could have prepared them. For what waited in the void? Sweet mother of... ... Noah's words died in his throat as the tactical display lit up with debris fields. Not asteroids, not natural formations. Spacecraft, thousands of them, scattered like broken toys around the dying. WORLD, Dr. Charlotte Hayes, pressed against the viewport, her medical scanner already running atmospheric analysis. Noah, those ships... ... They're escape pods. Civilian transports, they were trying to evacuate. Were they successful? Noah asked, though the silence from the debris field already gave him the answer. Life signs negative across all vessels, reported Lieutenant Marcus Webb from the sensor station. Captain, some of these ships have been drifting for weeks. The last few went dark just 3 days ago. The same time Emma Rodriguez had started receiving their transmissions. The Carathians had been dying while sending their desperate messages into space, watching their own rescue attempts fail one by one. Sir, visual contact with the planet, announced Ensign Taylor Brooks. The main screen flickered to life, and Noah heard someone behind him curse in 3 different languages. The Corathian homeworld hung before them like a diseased eye in space. What should have been a blue-green paradise was now mottled brown and yellow, with massive storm systems raging across entire continents. Atmospheric composition is ... Hayes paused, checking her readings twice. This can't be right. Pathogen concentration in the upper atmosphere reads at 47%. How is anything still alive down there? Maybe nothing is, Noah muttered, then caught himself. Belay that. We didn't come this far to find corpses. Full sensor sweep, all frequencies. The answer came within seconds. Communications Officer Mia Thompson's console erupted in a cacophony of voices, weak, desperate, but undeniably alive. Emergency. Medical assistance required at Corathian Central Hospital. Running out of respirators... What? Children's ward sealed but structural integrity failing. The voices overlapped, creating a symphony of suffering that made Noah's hands clench into fists. How many active transmission sources? He demanded. Sir, I'm reading. This can't be right either. Mia's voice cracked. Over 4 million individual. Emergency beacons are still active. Hospitals, schools, residential blocks, underground shelters. They're everywhere. 4 million people. Still alive, still fighting, still hoping someone would hear them. Dr. Hayes grabbed Noah's arm. Captain, look at the planetary infrastructure. Power grids are down across 60% of the surface. Water treatment facilities are offline. But those emergency broadcasts are still running on backup power. She paused, realizing the implications. They've been keeping their distress signals running even as their cities died around them, because they believed someone would come, Noah said quietly. After everyone else in the galaxy ignored them, they kept broadcasting because they believed someone would actually answer. Ensign Brooks looked up from her tactical station. Sir, I'm detecting weapon signatures in orbit. Automated defense. Platforms are still operational, but they're not targeting us. Why not? Unknown, sir. They've identified us as non-hostile, or... Brooks hesitated. Or there's nobody left alive to operate them. Before Noah could respond, Mia's console chimed with an incoming transmission. The voice that emerged was barely above a whisper, speaking in heavily accented standard. Unknown. Vessels. This is Corythion. Planetary defense. You have entered a contaminated system. For your own safety, please withdraw immediately. Noah looked around his bridge. Every face showed the same mix of anger and determination. They'd traveled 43 light-years, burned through their strategic fuel reserves, and risked starting an interstellar incident to get here. And now the people they'd come to save were trying to protect them. Mia, open a channel. Full broadcast. All frequencies. Channel open, sir. Noah's voice carried across space with the authority of someone who'd never learned the word impossible. Corythion, planetary defense. This is Captain Noah Mitchell of the Terran Medical Corps. We received your distress signal. We're here to help. The response came back immediately, tinged with disbelief. Captain Mitchell, we sent that signal to everyone. The Centauri Coalition said they couldn't help. The Altarians closed their borders. Even the Galactic Council said intervention was too dangerous. Well, Noah replied, unable to keep the edge from his voice, they're not human. A longer pause. Then, Captain, you don't understand. This pathogen is unlike anything we've encountered. It's airborne, waterborne, and shows signs of deliberate engineering. Our best scientists estimate a 94% fatality rate for non-Corythian species, Dr. Hayes snorted. 94%? That's adorable. Mia, tell them humans have a saying about those odds. Mia grinned as she opened the channel. Corythian defense. Dr. Hayes says to inform you that humans consider 94% fatality rates to be a light workout compared to Tuesday. You're joking. In the face of extinction, you're making jokes? Noah leaned forward. Listen carefully. Corythian defense. Humor is how humans process fear. And right now, we're not afraid of your plague. Yeah. We're afraid we might be too late to save. All of you. Another silence. Then, in a voice thick with emotion, Captain, there are still children alive in the sealed sections of New Karatha City. The barriers won't hold much longer. How long? Noah demanded. 6 hours? Maybe 8, if we reroute power from life support in the adult wards? Noah's jaw tightened with rage. Not at the Corythians, but at every species that had heard this desperation, and chosen safety over compassion. Hayes, get your bioteams ready for immediate deployment. Full hazmat protocols, but I want boots on the ground in 30 minutes. Sir, interrupted Mia, I'm still receiving transmissions from their planetary government. They're begging us to leave. They think we're here to scavenge their technology after they die. The bridge fell silent. These people were so accustomed to abandonment that they couldn't recognize rescue when it arrived. Noah stood up, his voice carrying the weight of human determination. Open a channel to their government. All leaders, all frequencies. Channel open, sir. This is Captain Mitchell of the Terran Medical Corps. We didn't travel 43 light-years to watch you die. We came here to save every last one of you. His voice hardened. So stop trying. To protect us from your problems and start telling us how to fix them? That's an order. The response was stunned silence, followed by something Noah had never heard before. An entire planet crying with relief. But as the first human medical shuttles prepared to launch toward the dying world, long-range sensors detected something. That made Noah's blood freeze. 3 massive energy signatures were approaching from the outer system. Moving fast and broadcasting hegemony identification codes, the people who had caused this plague were coming to finish the job. Dr. Oliver Barnes had gone 47 hours without sleep, and his hands shook as he manipulated the holographic molecular display floating above his workstation. Coffee had stopped working 12 hours ago. Pure adrenaline and rage were keeping him up right now. The makeshift laboratory aboard the Hope's Edge looked like controlled chaos. Human and Corythian scientists worked side by side, their equipment jury-rigged together in ways that violated every safety protocol Oliver had ever learned. Coratheon bioscanners interfaced with human quantum computers. Alien tissue samples sat next to Earth-made petri dishes. It shouldn't have worked, but it was working. And what they discovered made Oliver want to punch something. "The pathogen is synthetic," he announced, his voice cutting through the chaos of beeping machines and urgent conversations. Every head in the lab turned toward him. Someone weaponized this disease. Dr. Sarah Kim, his research partner for the past 6 years, looked up from her microscope. "Oliver, are you absolutely certain? Natural evolution could produce similar markers if Sarah, look at sequence 7 alpha. Oliver highlighted the relevant data on the main display. "See that protein chain? It's designed to target specific genetic markers found only in Coratheon DNA. This isn't evolution. This is engineering." Coratheon chief scientist Veltar clicked his mandibles in a sound Oliver had learned meant despair. The elderly alien's scales had dulled to a sickly gray over the past 2 days, but his 6 eyes remained sharp with intelligence. "The hegemony," he said quietly. "They said we refused their protection offer one too many times." Oliver stopped. "Working. What did you just say?" "6 months ago, hegemony representatives came to our world. They offered to protect us from hostile forces in exchange for exclusive mining rights to our dilithium deposits." Veltar's mandibles clicked faster, a sign of agitation. "Our council refused. We've been independent for 3,000 years. We weren't about to become vassals now. So they murdered your entire planet?" Oliver's voice rose with each word. "They poisoned 4 billion people because you wouldn't hand over your mineral rights." "The hegemony doesn't see it as murder," replied Dr. Kira Velinosh, Veltar's assistant. She was young for a Corathian, barely out of their equivalent of graduate school. But she'd been working alongside the human medical teams with impressive skill. "They call it economic pressure. Make the cost of independence higher than the cost of submission." Oliver's hands clenched into fists. He'd seen a lot of ugly things during humanity's expansion into space. Piracy, slavery, territorial wars. But genociding an entire species over a business dispute, that was a new low. Dr. Barnes called Dr. Amelia Foster from across the lab. "I've got some bad news about the cure matrix." Oliver hurried over to Amelia's workstation, where she'd been running simulations for the past 18 hours straight. Amelia was the kind of brilliant scientist who made other brilliant scientists feel inadequate. But right now she looked frustrated and exhausted. "What's the problem?" "The cure matrix is incomplete," Amelia said, pulling up her research data. "I can create a treatment that will slow the pathogen's spread, maybe by infected individuals another few weeks. But a complete cure requires the original pathogen sequence, the base code this thing was built from." "And let me guess," Oliver said grimly, "the hegemony destroyed all records." "Worse than that. They didn't just destroy the records. They built the pathogen with self-modifying properties. It's literally rewriting itself every few hours to stay ahead of potential treatments." Amelia rubbed her eyes. "Oliver, this isn't just biological warfare. This is artistic biological warfare. Someone took pride in making it impossible to cure." The lab fell silent except for the humming of equipment. Oliver looked around at the faces of his team. Human and Corathion alike saw the same thought. In everyone's eyes, they were losing. "How long do we have?" asked Dr. Kim quietly. "At current infection rates, the remaining population has maybe 36 hours before critical organ failure becomes irreversible," Amelia replied. "And that's assuming we can synthesize enough of my incomplete treatment to dose 4 million people." Oliver was about to respond when Commander Theodore Blake's voice boomed through the ship's comm system, carrying the kind of urgency that made everyone's blood pressure spike. "Medical teams, we've got incoming hostiles. 3 hegemony battlecruisers just dropped out of FTL. They're demanding we withdraw immediately."
"Out!"
The lab erupted in angry voices. Veltar's mandibles clicked rapidly as he spoke in rapid Corathion to his assistant. Dr. Kim cursed in Mandarin. Amelia just stared at her data screens with the expression of someone watching the world end. Oliver grabbed his sidearm from the emergency locker. Every human ship carried weapons, even medical vessels. It was a lesson learned the hard way during The early days of space exploration, sometimes the universe shot back. Oliver, what are you doing? Sarah demanded. The hegemony just made a critical error, Oliver replied, checking his weapons charge. They threatened human civilians in the middle of a rescue operation. We're researchers, not soldiers. Nah. Remember your history lessons. What happened to the last species that fired on human medical ships? Sarah's face went pale. The Draxan supremacy. Exactly. Where's the Draxan supremacy now? Extinct, whispered Dr. Kim. Oliver nodded grimly. The hegemony is about to learn why humanity conquered half the galaxy in 30 years. We don't just help people. Make sure nobody can stop us from helping people. Commander Blake's voice returned, and this time Oliver could hear weapons. Systems powering up in the background. All medical personnel, secure your stations. We're about to teach these hegemony bastards why you don't interrupt human doctors at work. Veltar looked confused. Commander Blake, surely negotiation would be preferable? These are military vessels. Your medical ship cannot hope to. Blake's laughter cut him off. Chief Scientist, let me ask you something. What makes you think the Hope's Edge is just a medical ship? Oliver grinned as he watched the lab's emergency. Bulkheads slide shut, revealing hidden weapon ports that had been concealed behind medical equipment. The truth was, every ship in the Terran rescue fleet was built for exactly this scenario. Because humans had learned long ago that sometimes saving people required killing the people who were trying to stop you from saving people. Veltar, Oliver said as the ship's hidden arsenal came online. You're about to see why the rest of the galaxy is afraid of us. We don't just cure diseases, we cure the people who make the diseases. Laboratory's viewport, Oliver could see the 3 hegemony battlecruisers approaching in attack formation. They were massive, heavily armed, and completely confident in their superiority. They were also about to discover that humans had a very different definition of medical ship than the rest of the galaxy. The question wasn't whether the humans would win this fight. The question was whether they'd leave anyone alive to explain to the rest of the hegemony why genociding entire species for profit was a very, very bad idea. Admiral James Harrison stood on the bridge of the Mercy's Wrath, watching 3 hegemony battlecruisers approach his medical fleet through the tactical display. Each enemy vessel was twice the size of his largest hospital ship, bristling with enough firepower to level a small moon. Under normal circumstances, this would be called a massacre, but these weren't normal circumstances. And Harrison hadn't survived 30 years of interstellar conflict by playing fair. Something cold settled in his chest as he watched the hegemony ships take attack positions around his fleet. These weren't military targets, they were threatening. They were floating hospitals filled with dying civilians. Human medics were down on the planet's surface, working frantically to save Corthian children. His ships were packed with refugee families, emergency surgical units, and enough medical supplies to rebuild a civilization. The hegemony was about to learn why threatening human medical operations was considered a war crime in 47-star systems. Admiral came the transmission from the lead hegemony vessel, the voice dripping with arrogance. You will cease this interference immediately. The Carathians violated our territorial agreement. Their punishment is ... appropriate. Harrison's tactical officer, Commander Sarah Chen, looked up from her console. Sir, they're powering weapons. All 3 vessels are targeting our medical bays. Are they now? Harrison's response was delivered in the clipped tones that made veteran soldiers instinctively check their life insurance policies. Open a channel. Channel. Open, sir. Unknown vessels, you have 30 seconds to withdraw before I classify you as threats to human medical operations. The hegemony commander's response came back immediately, filled with the kind of confidence that only comes from never. Having lost a fight, you dare threaten us? We are the hegemony. We rule 17 star systems. Our fleet has conquered entire sectors. Harrison checked his chronometer. 29 seconds. Admiral Harrison, the alien voice continued, you seem to misunderstand the situation. We have 3 fully armed battle cruisers. You have medical ships filled with refugees and wounded civilians. 28 seconds. Perhaps you're unfamiliar with hegemony military doctrine, the commander continued, his tone now mocking. We don't negotiate with inferior species. Don't show mercy to those who interfere with our operations. 27 seconds, Harrison replied. His voice so calm it made his own crew nervous. Commander Chen leaned toward him. Sir, they're not backing down. Weapons are fully charged and locked on target. Harrison nodded. Good. I hate it when they surrendered it easily. The hegemony commander's laughter echoed through space. You brought medical ships to threaten us? How wonderfully naive. Your human compassion will be your destruction. Perhaps when we've eliminated your fleet, we'll preserve some of you for study. I've always wondered what makes humans so stupidly self-sacrificing. Harrison's expression didn't change. 26 seconds. Chen, are all civilian evacuations complete? All medical personnel and refugees are secured in the protected sections, sir? Engineering reports ready for combat operations? 25 seconds. Harrison continued to the hegemony fleet. I suggest you use them wisely. Admiral, came another voice from the alien fleet. This one's slightly less confident. Surely we can reach some arrangement. The hegemony is not unreasonable. Perhaps a tribute payment, or exclusive trading rights. 20 seconds. The first hegemony commander cut off his subordinate. Enough. Admiral Harrison, you seem to believe your medical vessels pose some threat to our war fleet. Allow me to demonstrate the futility of your position. Energy readings spiked across Harrison's tactical display as the hegemony ships prepared to fire. Their weapons could crack a planet's crust. Their shields could withstand direct hits from fusion bombs. Their commanders had never lost a battle. In 20 years of conquest, they were about to discover that humans had a very different definition of medical ship than the rest of the galaxy. 15 seconds, Harrison announced, then turned to his weapons officer. Lieutenant Rodriguez, please show our guests what the Terran Medical Corps considers appropriate self-defense equipment. With pleasure, sir. The hulls of Harrison's medical ships began to split open like metallic flowers blooming in space. What had appeared to be hospital bays and refugee quarters revealed themselves as cleverly disguised weapon arrays. The Hope's Edge wasn't just a hospital ship. It was a fully armed dreadnought, disguised as one. 10 seconds, Harrison said as massive plasma cannons emerged from hidden compartments. 9 seconds. Railgun turrets rotated into firing position. 8 seconds. Missile pods opened like hungry mouths. The hegemony commander's voice had lost its arrogance. What? What are those? 6 seconds. Those, Commander, are medical ships equipped with the finest surgical instruments known to humanity. Harrison's smile was colder than deep space. We use them to surgically remove threats to our patients' health and safety. This is impossible. Medical vessels are protected under galactic law. They cannot carry heavy weapons. 5 seconds. Correction, Commander. Medical vessels cannot carry heavy weapons without declaring them. We declare these weapons now. Harrison's voice hardened. For seconds, Admiral, we surrender. Withdraw our forces immediately. 3 seconds. I'm afraid that offer has expired. Wait, we can negotiate. We can offer compensation. 2 seconds. Compensation to whom? The 4 billion Corinthians you murdered? Harrison's voice carried 30 years of accumulated rage. 1 second. Admiral, please. Harrison's words were delivered with the finality of a death sentence. Time's up. Correction, Commander. We didn't bring medical ships to threaten you. We brought hospitals that happened to have the best point defense systems in known space. The silence that followed lasted exactly to heartbeats. Fire. What happened next? Redefined. The concept of surgical precision. The human fleet didn't just destroy the hegemony battle cruisers, they dissected them. Plasma beams severed weapon systems with microsecond accuracy. Railgun rounds punched through shield generators like needles through tissue. Missiles found their targets with the kind of precision that came from decades of saving lives by destroying the things trying to end them. The battle lasted exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds. When it ended, 3 of the most feared warships in the galaxy had been reduced to expanding clouds of superheated debris. Harrison opened a channel. To the dying planet below, Corithion ground control. This is Admiral Harrison. The immediate threat has been neutralized. Medical operations will continue as scheduled. The response came back filled with awe. Admiral, ... how did you? Those were hegemony battle cruisers. ... Harrison's expression slightly, sometimes. Saving lives requires taking lives. We're very good at both. As the wreckage of the enemy fleet drifted past his viewport, Harrison received an urgent transmission from Dr. Barnes in the medical lab. Admiral, we've made a breakthrough. We found something in the hegemony ship de Brienne, intact biological warfare computer core. We might be able to reverse engineer the original pathogen and create a real cure. Harrison smiled for the first time in days. The hegemony had made their final mistake. They'd brought their genocide weapon to a fight with the species that had turned healing into an art form. Now, every Korathian would live, and the galaxy would learn what happened when you threatened human medical operations. The question wasn't whether the humans would cure the plague. The question was what they'd do to the rest of the hegemony empire once they finished saving every last Korathone life. 6 months later, Veltar stood in the heart of New Karathas City, watching something that should have been impossible. Human children were teaching young Karathians how to play baseball while their parents shared coffee and compared notes on interstellar medicine. The plague was gone. The dying world had become a thriving hub of galactic cooperation, and the hegemony. Well, the hegemony was no more. The transformation still amazed him. Where once toxic storms had raged across poisoned continents, now gentle rains fell on restored forests. The humans hadn't just cured the plague, they'd rebuilt an entire ecosystem from scratch. Atmospheric processors hummed quietly in the distance, maintaining the perfect balance of oxygen and nitrogen that made life possible. But it wasn't the technology that shocked Veltar. It was the children. Uncle Vel called 8-year-old Kira Velinosh, his great-niece. As she ran past with her human friend, Tommy Chen, both children were laughing, their faces painted with the bright colors of some Earth festival called Face Painting Day. They spoke a mixture of Korathian and English that somehow made perfect sense to both species. Did you see? Tommy's dad is teaching us how to make ice cream? Kira's excitement was infectious. His mom says humans invented something called chocolate, and we absolutely have to try it. Veltar watched them run toward the Cultural Exchange Center, their joy a stark contrast to the fear that had dominated this world just 6 months ago. Back then, children had hidden in sealed bunkers, slowly dying from a plague designed to torture them before killing them. Now they were arguing about whether vanilla or strawberry was the superior ice cream flavor. Hard to believe, isn't it? Veltar turned to find Admiral James Harrison approaching, carrying a datapad and wearing the expression of someone who hadn't slept in 36 hours. The human looked older than when they'd first met, but there was a satisfaction in his eyes that spoke of missions accomplished and lives saved. Admiral Harrison. I heard about Epsilon Centauri, another rescue mission? Harrison nodded grimly. Famine this time. 3 billion people, maybe 4 weeks of food reserves left? Their agricultural systems collapsed after a solar flare knocked out their weather control satellites. He paused, studying Veltar's expression. We launch in 8 hours. At another. Impossible mission, across impossible distances? Pretty much. Though after what we learned here, famine relief should be relatively straightforward. Harrison's smile held no humor. At least nobody's shooting biological weapons at starving children. Veltar felt that familiar chill of understanding. 6 months ago, he'd watched human ships appear in their system like avenging angels, arriving exactly when hope had died. Now he was watching them prepare to do it again, somewhere else, for people they'd never met. Your people saved us, Veltar said quietly, gesturing toward the rebuilt city around them. But I must ask, why? We were strangers, complete unknowns. Our deaths would have cost you nothing. Harrison looked genuinely confused by the question, as if Veltar had asked why water was wet. Someone asked for help. But the risk, the distance, the resources were human. Harrison interrupted, and Veltar heard something in his voice that explained everything and nothing at once. We don't calculate risk when people are dying. We calculate how fast we can save them. The words hung in the air like a universal law. Veltar thought about the 47 other species that had received their distress signal. The Centauri Coalition had run cost-benefit analyses. The Altarians had conducted risk assessments. The Vegan Empire had debated territorial jurisdiction. For 6 weeks, only humans had heard a plea for help and responded with, "On our way." "The galaxy has changed," Veltar observed. "Since your intervention here, 7 different species have established their own emergency response fleets. The Andromedans are calling it the Human Protocol." Harrison's eyebrows rose. Human Protocol? An assumption that someone will actually answer when you call for help. It's revolutionary. Veltar clicked his mandibles, and what humans had learned was Korathian laughter. 3 months ago, the Regeline Trade Union tried to blockade the Tau SETI system over a customs dispute. They found themselves facing 4 different rescue fleets, demanding safe passage for humanitarian supplies. "Good," Harrison said simply. "About time the rest of the galaxy learned some basic decency." "Basic decency," Veltar repeated.
Admiral.
"Do you understand what you've done? For 10,000 years, the strong have preyed on the weak. Might made right. Survival of the fittest." His 6 eyes focused on Harrison with laser intensity. "You've introduced the most dangerous concept imaginable, the expectation that someone will always answer the call." Harrison shrugged. "Seems reasonable." To me, before Veltar could respond, his communicator chimed with an emergency signal. His expression darkened as he read the message. "Admiral, I'm receiving reports from our deep space monitors. The hegemony remnants are regrouping in the outer spiral. They're calling for allies, offering massive rewards to any species willing to eliminate the human problem." Harrison's smile was colder than absolute zero. "Let them come, Admiral. They're talking about assembling the largest military alliance in galactic history. Hundreds of species, thousands of ships. They want to make an example of humanity before your rescue protocol spreads any further. Veltar, let me ask you something." Harrison's voice carried the weight of absolute certainty. "How many Korathian children were alive 6 months ago? Perhaps 2 million in the sealed bunkers.
Right.
And how many are alive now?" Veltar looked around at the thriving city, at the children playing in parks that shouldn't exist on a world that should be dead. All of them. Every single one. Right, now imagine what happens when someone threatens those children. Harrison's expression hardened. The hegemony made one mistake when they tried to commit genocide for profit. But threatening human civilians while we're trying to save people, that's a much bigger mistake. What will you do? "Same thing we always do," Harrison replied, checking his deployment orders. "We'll save everyone who needs saving. And we'll make sure the people trying to stop us can never threaten anyone again." As Harrison walked away to prepare for the next rescue mission, Veltar realized something that would have terrified every warlike species in the galaxy. Humans didn't just respond to calls for help. They created a universe where calling for help meant someone would always answer. The strong could no longer prey on the weak, because humanity had made weakness itself an act of aggression against human values. And when humans considered something an act of aggression against their values, they didn't just fight back. They won. The galaxy's age of predators was over. The age of protectors had begun. And somewhere in the outer spiral, the remnants of the hegemony were about to learn what happened. When you declared war on the concept of hope itself, the end.